am Ashley Raymer-Brown.
And I'm Rebecca Raymer.
And we're the co-writers of Glow. And the plot of Glow is a little convoluted, but we'll try to summarize it for you. There were women in the 1920s and the 1930s who were hired by large corporations to come in and paint dials. What they would do is they had little watch dials, things that you wear on your wrist, and you would mix a compound of radium and zinc and water, put it in a little like petri dish, and then you would stick a paintbrush in that, put it in your mouth to make the point really sharp, and then you would paint the dials because we wanted it to glow in the dark so it could get sent off to the men during the war, during World War I. They could look and they could see what time it was without the enemy seeing where they are. And the women were doing this. They were making a lot of money. It was great work. They got to work with their friends, their family. Everything was great until they started getting sick. And they started putting it together that the more we paint with this radium compound, the sicker we seem to feel. So they would go to their bosses and they would say what was happening to them. And the bosses were saying, oh, no, you're fine. No, that's impossible. Radium is good for you, because it was everywhere. You could drink radium water. You could have radium makeup. It makes your skin glow. It's great. How could this be making you sick? And then they started to die. And their friends started to die, and they came to the employers and they said, this just is not right. And the employer said, no, they were sick with something else. They already had problems, but
the whole time they were testing them. They tested their blood, and they were finding that these women,
they were radioactive.
Yes, they were radioactive, and it was so bad that they literally glowed in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
They would go home to their husbands, they would turn out the lights. Their bones would glow through their skin, a green.
Like an X-ray.
Like an X-ray. They looked like walking X-rays. That's why they were called the Ghost Ladies of Ottawa.
Well, that's why we called them that. They were called just the Ghost Women. So that's where we got the title, the Ghost Ladies of Ottawa. So there were actually two or three factions that this was happening to. We had the women in Connecticut, we had women in New Jersey, and we had women in Ottawa, Illinois. We decided to follow the story of the women from Ottawa and who they were, and what they decided to do was to sue the company and try to at least get enough money to pay for their medical expenses, because they had been going to the doctor for years. They'd accrued all this money. They'd been paid very well to paint the dials, but they used up all of that money plus some.
And they were fired by the company.
Right, and the company would fire them because they were sick. So they lost all their income.
It looked bad to the other women. They didn't want the other women being frightened,
right,
because these women were so sick. So they fired them with no compensation. And this was during the Depression. So their husbands couldn't find jobs. They were too sick to work. And they were in dire straits. They had to sue. And these girls would go into this factory as young as 11. And they were set for life if they could keep the job.
They were making 2-3 times what their fathers or their husbands could make. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, they were doing hundreds of dials a day. And with each number, they put that brush in their mouth, and they were swallowing more pain. And the company doctors never told them.
No.
They lied to them. They said the girls died of syphilis.
Right.
Or other diseases.
Diphtheria, any kind of disease other than what was really happening.
Right, and they disparaged their name to the community, and it was just a horrible situation.
Do you want to tell them where you heard about this story?
I originally heard about this story on a podcast, and I couldn't forget it. It kept gnawing at me, and as soon as I heard the podcast, I called her up and I said, "You've got to hear this story." I just could not let this story go. And in the meantime, there was a movie produced about the Radium Girls. A book was written, a couple of plays.
We just felt like, well, okay, we know it's been done, but we think we can give it a little different spin. She writes more for books and fiction and short stories. So she loves plotting, and she's wonderful at plotting, and she's wonderful at action sequences. I love living in the world of dialogue, and because I've worked in the world of theater, I could put in the stage directions, and by the end of it, she was learning what stage right and stage left was, and upstage, and so that was good to combine both of our worlds, and I think that's why our partnership worked really well. It just so happens that when we wrote it together, then I was the one that continued on with the journey because I'm also directing it. And something that we wanted to do that's a little different with ours is, while it is set in the 1920s and the 1930s, we're not married to that time period as far as dialogue. We used evergreen language, which means when you come to the play, I want you to think this could happen today. So I wanted to use language. I didn't want to use slang from today even. I just wanted to use evergreen. It could happen in any time period. Our costuming isn't going to be purely 1920s and 1930s. It's going to be influenced or inspired by those time periods. However, with the women, because we have their pictures in the newspaper, I said to keep that evergreenness of the story, I wanted to find young women, especially the young women, not with everybody in the cast, but at least our main dial painters. Could we find people that looked like them? So if Peg Looney was alive in 2020, say, what would she look like? And or if Marie Rossiter or Catherine Donahue, what would they look like with today's clothing and today's looks? And I think we really got it. I think we really did. I think all of our girls really resemble their counterpart from almost some of them 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think they look like we've brought them into the modern time.
And I think their
personalities, yeah.
are the same,
Yeah.
We've got an excellent cast.
We really have a great cast.
I could not ask for a better cast. And all the people behind the scenes. They're just, and I still am amazed that something we wrote that people get so inspired by.
Yeah, well, they were pretty inspiring. We're just kind of like the conduit
that
tells their story. But still, it feels like, wow, you like it? That's great.
Yeah, that's just amazes me that they would even read it. Amazes me. But like when they were practicing some of the songs and some of the people that are playing the parts were literally crying because they're so into the character and the story, and that's basically what we wanted. We wanted to tell this story,
right?
And I think we've done it.
Come see us July 21st to the 23rd and the 28th to the 30th. For more information on tickets, go to our box office at thetheatredownstream.com.